For hundreds of years, people from all walks of life have reported sightings of a large hairy animal walking on 2 feet. The scientific community has dismissed these sightings as hoaxes, hallucinations, or misidentified bears. But is there another option? Is it possible that there is an ape, the largest of the great apes, unrecognized and unclassified by modern science, roaming the forest of North America? Please join us as we seek the answer to this compelling question. You have arrived at the intersection of myth and science, of fact and folklore. You have arrived at Bigfoot Crossing.
Hey, good afternoon, friends and neighbors. Welcome to Bigfoot Crossing, your local friendly neighborhood show about all things Bigfoot. Thank you so much for being here. I am Michael Willey, and I have my good friend Daryl Williams with me today. Daryl, how are you?
Well, we brought in a camera crew in case we have a Bigfoot sighting today. We wanted to get it documented.
I think
today.
That's a perfect idea. We need a Bigfoot sighting today, yes. The folks from Channel 4 News are still here with us, and we appreciate them so very much.
They're not going to leave a good story.
I
mean, you know, they thought Trade Time was the story, but then they heard about Bigfoot and they decided to stay.
That's great. I appreciate that.
You're the attorney who's searching for Bigfoot.
That's right.
Yeah.
And haven't found him yet, but we will. He's, it's like they used to say on the X-Files, the truth is out there.
You're a true believer.
I am. Well, I mean, it's not so much that when people say, "Are you a believer?" It's almost like they're asking, "Well, do you believe in the tooth fairy?"
Almost like they're making fun of you.
Well, yeah. Well, no.
Sometimes.
It's just it's a different sort of attitude. John Green, when he wrote his book Sasquatch: The Apes Among Us, he put in there. He said, "I'm not a believer." He said, "I think, though, that the evidence demonstrates that there's something that needs to be investigated." And that's sort of my position. I certainly believe there's something out there, but I believe it based upon the evidence that's been provided. I'm an attorney. Attorneys focus on evidence, and I think there's so much evidence that's been ignored that shows that there is an unclassified creature roaming the woods of America, not just the Pacific Northwest. There's been over 150 sightings in Middle Tennessee, and I think that there's evidence that has been ignored that science basically ignores it because it's easier to ignore it than to address the issue.
Michael, we should point out tonight is the full moon, and it's called the strawberry moon. This is the first time there's been a full moon on the first day of summer since 1948, according to my information. Now, this would be a perfect night for Bigfoot to make an appearance.
Well, there's something. That's interesting. That's got to mean something. That's got to mean something. A strawberry moon. Why is it called the strawberry moon?
That's just what they call it. I don't know. Linda Carden sent me that, and I'll have to Google and do a little more research on it. But this is the summer solstice, as we tape this.
Right.
So,
right. Well,
but
cool.
Just a little
the strawberry moon.
Yep.
I'll have to remember that. I'll have to keep that in mind.
Well, we're talking everything Bigfoot today. You've got on you're back in uniform.
I'm
today.
back in uniform.
You were not last week.
I found my show shirt. That's never clean your car out. That's the lesson. As long as I didn't clean my car out, I knew where my show shirt was, and I was good to go. But I cleaned my car out and I lost it for a week.
Yeah.
And so that's the moral of that story. Don't clean your car out.
Well, we have learned so much about Bigfoot since you've been doing this show. We've learned about there is a Bigfoot museum.
There's two actually.
There's two.
Yes.
Yep. So you're not the only serious searcher out there.
Oh no. I may be. I'm. There's a whole lot of people. There's organizations all over the place. There's, of course, the most famous one being The Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization out in California. They're famous because Matt Moneymaker, who is on Finding Bigfoot, was the founder of that organization. And oddly enough, his daddy is a bankruptcy lawyer.
There's something about bankruptcy lawyers and Bigfoot.
That's right. That's right. And there's the Gulf Coast Bigfoot Researchers Organization, which is sort of a Mid-South organization. There's folks up in Kentucky. There's really organizations all over the nation where people have come together because they share an interest in Bigfoot. And I'm not a member of any organization, not for any other reason than I just am not. And but there are a lot of people, searching for Bigfoot, and a lot of them probably doing it more actively than I am, because I just have hard times finding time to get out in the woods. And but there's Joe Bilyeu, remember our scout leader from up in Springfield. He takes his Boy Scouts Bigfooting, and I think that's great.
Bigfoot expeditions are good exercise. You increase your social circle.
You do.
And so there's just a lot of benefits to being a Bigfoot hunter.
There are. I highly recommend it. And and if you think, well, this sort of thing doesn't happen in Tennessee, it does. And there are, as I've said, based upon the reports in the sightings database for the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization and the Gulf Coast Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, the GCBRO, there's over 150 sightings here in Middle Tennessee, and so there's a lot of sightings.
And we'll get you to shut the door. We've got a lot of activity out in the hallway,
that's okay.
Michael. And
but I thought what we'd do today, Daryl, we talked a little bit last week about the Flintville monster, and I've got some other sightings that have been reported in the news over the years. Now, some of these are old sightings.
One more thing.
Yes.
You asked about the strawberry moon and how it got its name.
I did.
Linda Carden tells me the Indians named it that. It was the time of the year to pick strawberries.
How about that? Well, that's cool.
Now, back to the Flintville monster.
Back to the Flintville monster. What I've got are some newspaper articles that I've found over the years, and all of these can be found on my website, which is tnbigfoot.com. You would think I would know my own website name. TennesseeBigfoot.com, tnbigfoot.com. All of these are on there, but these are just a few of the sightings that actually made the news. And if you know of any of these names that are mentioned in here, I would love to talk to these people. Now, some of them are quite old. I've got one here. I'm just going to read this. And while I'm doing that, I have been wanting to do this ever since we started the show, Daryl. Just sort of an informal poll. If you believe in Bigfoot. So give us that number, Daryl.
615-794-1950.
Okay.
Yeah, call and let us know.
Let us know. You don't have to give us your name if you don't want to, but call in and say, yes, I believe.
Don't have to tell us whether you're a Democrat or a Republican,
nope.
red or blue.
Nope. You don't have to worry about any of that. You don't have to worry about if you're for Trump or for Hillary. Frankly, I'm for Gary Johnson. So, I'm a Republican, and I'm going to vote Libertarian this year.
Oh,
so
we'll have to do 2 disclaimers on this show today. We got to add a disclaimer in today.
That's right. The views of Michael Willey do not necessarily represent the views of WAKM AM-950.
but we want to do a sampling and find out who out there believes it, or if they think it's a bunch of hogwash,
or if they're somewhere in the middle. There's room for middle ground there.
You got some folks who are in the middle.
Not decided.
Yeah.
So give us a call.
You're undecided independents.
That's right. We want to hear from everybody. So I just a little informal poll, because a couple of years ago, I think there was a university, and I think it's Chapman University, but my memory is fading on me, did a survey which said that 39% of Americans believe Bigfoot to be a real creature. And I thought that was interesting. And so I would just like to see how many of our listeners believe Bigfoot to be real. Call in. You don't have to give your name. You can say, yes, I believe, no, I don't, or I'm undecided. We will, however, write down your phone number and sell it to a telemarketing organization. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that to you. We're not going to do that. But while we're reading through some of these old articles about Bigfoot that have appeared in Tennessee newspapers, for the most part, be calling in, and we'll be keeping a tally of the yays and the nays and the undecided. So the first one comes from the Knoxville Journal. Oh, we got a caller. Hello, caller.
Hey, I'm a believer now.
All right, that's great. We'll put you down in the yay column.
Why do you believe?
Hey, just too much evidence from hundreds of years, you know?
There you go.
And it's just, you know, all the pictographs of what, or however you say that word, from the Indians back, you know, hundreds of years ago, you know?
There's just lots of stuff that just goes ignored by science, and
Right.
and that's a shame. It really is.
Well, the way I see it is there's been too many people who have seen so much
Right.
over the years. They all think they hoaxes, you know?
Exactly. I mean, if every Bigfoot sighting was a hoax, you'd have to have a worldwide network of people willing to sit in the woods for long periods of time just waiting for somebody to come by.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
And the funding for that, you know?
Right.
And by the way, if you're listening out there and you're a member of that organization, let me know, because I could use the money.
I appreciate what y'all are doing. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for calling in.
All right. Well,
right.
believers won.
Well, that's right. That's right. So now we've got, this is from, again, the In the News segment of TennesseeBigfoot.com, and it's from the Knoxville Journal, September 24th, 1959. Again, this is an old one. But I'm going to read this to you. Knox County deputies were searching the northeast section of Knox County last night for somebody or something which 2 Claps Road residents fired 2 shotgun blasts at, and described as being 8 to 10 feet tall and weighing more than 200 pounds. You know, if you're 10 foot tall, you really ought to weigh more than 200 pounds. Earl Taylor, 24-year-old father of 2 small children, first saw what he described as some kind of a monster when it came to the window on the front porch of his house. When I saw the thing, I ran to the door and it ran, Taylor explained. So I went across the road to a neighbor, John Rosenbaum. We sat under a tree in the yard to see if it would return. We had been sitting in the yard for a few minutes when we heard 2 loud thumps on my car, Taylor continued. The 2 men ran to the side of the house where the car was parked and saw something run towards the woods, deputies reported. That is when Rosenbaum, a 24-year-old Tucker Steel Company employee, fired 2 shotgun blasts at the creature, according to reports. I shot twice from about 30 to 45 feet, Rosenbaum said. I don't believe it was human. It was too big and moved too fast and quiet. Deputies said there were 2 long scratches on the hood of Taylor's car, which he and several of the neighbors said were not there when they polished the car earlier in the day. So if you know of a Earl Taylor, who used to live, or at least used to live, on Claps Road in Knox County, or John Rosenbaum, I would love to get in touch with those people if you can give me some contact information. And, you know, because these are people, these people are young enough. Let's see, 1959, they were 24. Do some quick math for me there, Daryl. What's that make them?
Now you're asking the wrong person.
But you're the grand poobah of the high muckety mucks of WAKM.
What were the years again?
1959.
1959.
And this is 2016.
Okay.
Well,
So.
dee 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 dee.
57? I don't know.
57?
Is that?
Okay, so they were 24 at the time, so 57 and 24 is
81?
81?
Yeah, they'd be about 80 in their 80s.
They'd be in their 80s. So they might, they or their family might remember something. But I'd love to talk to folks who have witnessed Bigfoot, who have seen had some sort of an experience. And of course, last week we talked a good bit about the Flintville monster, but I wanted to go over that again because this was fairly recent, a whole lot more recent than 1959. The trouble began in 1976. And went through the mid-'80s, to my understanding. So if you live in the Fayetteville, Flintville area, and you have had an experience with the Flintville monster, I'd love to talk to you. My cell number is 615-516-7173, 615-516-7173. And again, if you're a believer or if you're a non-believer or if you're somewhere in between, give us a call. Daryl, give us the number again.
615-794-1950. We've heard from a believer.
Yep.
Might want to hear from the other side.
Yeah, as long as you don't say nasty names about me. That's fine. Got to keep it clean for the radio,
We may just have a bunch of
folks.
believers out
That's
there.
Right. That's right.
If they're tuned in.
So give us a call. But I want to read this article, and this article actually appeared in the Augusta, Georgia Chronicle in 1997. And it goes under the heading of Tennessee Bigfoot, a Disagreeable Fellow. And it reads, there's a Bigfoot attacking cars and trying to snatch little children in the Tennessee foothills. Exactly what the Flintville monster is or where it came from remains a mystery, but more than 2 decades of sightings and terrifying encounters have left many people convinced that the creature is not only real but dangerous as well. More than two. Lost my spot. The thing's so big it could easily hurt somebody, complained Ned Sinclair, a farmer. Who knows how many head of our livestock have gone missing because of it. Now there's a name, Ned Sinclair. If anybody knows Ned Sinclair living in the Flintville area, I would love to know how to contact him. So let me continue the article. So far, no one has been hurt by the Flintville monster, which often leaves behind a 16-inch footprint and a foul skunk-like odor. But there are those who claim to have had close calls. One man said a 7-foot-tall hairy monster chased him through the woods, howling and screeching at him like an ape. A woman said she hid on the floorboard of her car when a similar creature attacked her car. Let me stop there for just a second. This man who was being chased by the 7-foot-tall Bigfoot was experiencing what's called a bluff charge, and it's an offensive weapon, if I can call it that, used by great apes to chase away intruders. And it's called a bluff charge because what happens is the ape, and I've seen it on animal documentaries with great apes, with especially gorillas. The gorilla will come charging at whatever they're trying to scare away, just screaming and hollering and beating its chest and tearing at trees and doing all things like that. And then he'll stop. And then he'll go back. And then he'll come again and charge. And the whole purpose of that is to scare away whatever he wants scared away, whatever is bothering him or intruding on his his territory. And what's his name? James Vincent, who was written up in the Nashville Banner back in the 70s, experienced that very thing himself. A Bigfoot doing a bluff charge through the woods, and James Vincent got the message and got back in his canoe and paddled out into the water to get away from it.
So a connection there between Bigfoot and the great apes.
And the great apes, Go ahead.
What the animal in the Ohio Zoo that the little boy went in the cage with was that a great ape?
That's a great ape.
What did you think about that situation, Michael, and the way the animal, the gorilla, acted? Was that a
I think
Was he being protective, or was he was a little?
No, he was standing over the little boy.
Uh-huh.
That was an intimidation technique.
Ooh,
It was
okay.
something that was smaller than him, but nonetheless had intruded into his territory. I know there was a lot of hue and cry on the internet because the ape was put down. And they said, "Oh, he's trying to protect him. He's trying to protect him." No, the big ape, the great ape, was standing over him in a offensive posture, I think. And they couldn't use a dart gun, to put him to sleep because it would have taken too long and the boy could have been injured. It's just a tragic thing, It's tragic that the boy went through that. Tragic that. For the zoo, because they had to put down an animal.
I just knew you'd probably studied, the behavior of apes, and I'd not ask you for your take on that.
Yeah.
And I know at first I was my first thought was, wow, the zoo should have, tranquilized him or something. But when I saw some of the other footage that later came out, and I mean, the speed that gorilla was moving at, and he was jerking the little boy around, and I came to the conclusion that little boy was really in danger.
He was,
Yeah.
and
I don't think the zoo really had a choice.
They didn't, not in that situation,
yeah.
because the tranquilizer would not have taken effect in time, and he could have continued to maybe injure the boy. I don't think the boy was injured, but he wasn't. This was not an ape that was trying to protect the little boy. He saw an intruder.
And I didn't mean to get us off track, but
Yeah.
we talk about apes on this show, connected to Bigfoot
Yes,
a lot.
because
So, yeah.
I'm convinced. There are lots of people who believe a lot of different things about Bigfoot, but I am convinced that Bigfoot is a great ape. His behavior that's reported mirrors great ape behavior in so many respects, and so I do believe it is a great ape. The descriptions of the face, and so it's relevant because it is a great ape encounter. That unfortunately turned out the way it did, but it was necessary, and it's interesting because the Flintville monster involves a 4-year-old little boy. And we talked about this a little last week, but I'm going to just recount this. The trouble began in 1976, and I'm again reading from the article here, when a woman told police that a giant hairy monster... I'm sorry, I haven't got to that part yet. Broke her automobile antenna, then jumped onto the hood of the roof of her car, began bouncing up and down. The woman's story made the news. Other citizens stepped forward to describe similar encounters. Then we'll skip down to 1976, April 26th, 1976. Jenny Robertson's 4-year-old son, Gary, was playing in the yard when his mother heard him scream. When she ran outside to investigate, she became conscious of a foul odor that reminded her of a skunk or dead rats. Then she saw a huge ape-like figure bounding across the yard toward the house. It was 7 or 8 feet tall, she told investigators, and it seemed to be all covered with hair. It reached out its long, hairy arms toward Gary and came within a few inches of him. Seconds before the shaggy beast could grab the child, his terrified mother snatched him up, darted inside the house, and locked the doors. When she got up enough courage to look out the window, she saw a big black shape disappearing into the woods. Minutes after she reported the incident to the police, swarms of lawmen and hunters descended on her property armed with shotguns and rifles. They resolved to track down and kill the creature. Throughout the night, they combed the woods on the outskirts of town. They never found anything, but on at least 2 occasions, the creature screamed at them and pelted them with rocks. The next day, the hunters found more 16-inch footprints, as well as hair, blood, and mucus. The hair was scientifically analyzed, but could not be identified. So there's a terrifying sighting for a mother to look out and see an 8-foot, ape running towards your 4-year-old child. Now I don't know whether the Bigfoot would have grabbed up the child or not, but I didn't see it through the mother's eyes. But if you are living in the Flintville and Fayetteville area and Mrs. Jenny Robertson, or her husband, which her husband's not named in this article, or Gary. Gary was 4 in 76, which would put him in his 40s now. So if you know of any of these folks that are involved in these stories, or if you know Ned Sinclair, a farmer who lost livestock down in the Flintville area, I would love to be able to talk to these folks. I have reached out to the Elk Valley Times, which is the Fayetteville newspaper, to talk to them, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. But my cell number is 615-516-7173, 615-516-7173. I would love to talk to folks about their encounters with Bigfoot.
We have had some of the hottest Bigfoot searching weather in recent days, Michael, and we want to remind all of the Bigfoot searchers out there, before you go on your expedition, be sure you have plenty of silky Kangen water. Silky tasting Kangen water.
That's right, and that's what you need on a hot day like this, because the Kangen water doesn't weigh you down. It's microclustered, so it's so easily absorbed by the body. And it is alkaline, so it helps to keep your body's pH balance proper. And it is antioxidant, so it will take care of the free radicals that are running through your body, damaging your cells. And it's great tasting on top of it. It's the healthiest, best tasting water you'd ever drink. I take it with me when I'm Bigfoot, and I carry a gallon with me. And my daughter Olivia rides horses, and she loves it because it doesn't weigh her down. It's so quickly absorbed into her body. She can guzzle down a bunch of it and then go back to riding, and it doesn't. If you drink too much water on a hot day, you can get sick. Olivia never has to worry about that.
We don't talk about Olivia a lot. While you're chasing Bigfoot and you're thinking about the great apes, she's in the equestrian world.
She is. She is a big time horse girl, and went to her first rodeo last Saturday, and was very competitive and did well, and and then this past Saturday we were at a hunter show where she did some jumping, and she came home with 10 ribbons, I think. Ooh. From that. Yes, she did. She had a great show. And then tomorrow she's going to start with a roping clinic. She's going to improve on her roping skills. So she does it all. I'm very proud of her.
She's for all that. And we're glad to have Olivia drop by today.
Yeah.
So it's good to have her in studio. 615-794-1950 is our number if you ever need to reach Michael when he's here in Studio A. He is happy to talk Bigfoot. He's happy to talk Kangen water, and we always enjoy our programs with him. We've heard from some interesting guests he's had along the way, and Michael, we enjoy your Bigfoot research. It's interesting. It's always entertaining.
Well, it's like our first caller said. There's just so much evidence out there that if every footprint and if every sighting were a fake or a hoax, you'd have to have this worldwide organization of people ready to jump into very expensive, very realistic looking ape outfits at a moment's notice, and ape outfits that show muscle definition.
Pretty convincing, sort of. Yeah.
It is
George Lucas kind of things.
Yes, I mean, and when Roger Patterson filmed Bigfoot in 1967, John Green actually took a copy of that film to Disney Studios, and Disney Studios said, "We didn't do it." And we would not be able to recreate it without using animatronics. And animatronics can't move independently.
And thank you for dialing in. You're on Bigfoot Crossing with Michael Willey.
Hello, caller.
Hey, yeah, I live here in the county, 77 years old. And all of this stuff these people are hearing in the woods, that's all hogwash. I don't believe a word of it.
Oh, all right.
I'm not blaming you. You reading it. But these people talking about that stuff, that ain't true. That didn't happen. But I just wanted to call and tell you that I don't believe it. I'm 77 years old.
Yes, sir.
Never heard of it.
Well, I appreciate you calling. We're going to put you down as a believer.
Okay.
Thank you for calling.
He's a believer. He believes it's a lot of hogwash.
He believes it's a lot of hogwash. That's right. Well, and that's just it. It sort of polarizes people.
Well, I mean, the thing about the Flintville thing, I mean, that's pretty elaborate if it was made up, or if it was made up. I mean, well, okay, say it was made up. Well, boy, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, that is really over the top.
Especially when you have a posse after you with shotguns.
Yeah, I mean, that's really over the top.
Yeah,
It
really is.
If it was.
And so there's, I'm glad he called in with his opinion.
Yeah. Now, Michael, if I'm gonna play the devil's advocate, and I'm going to try to stay neutral. But now, one thing that I would say the non-believers might say is, in this age of our smartphones and cameras, it looks like we might have some more video documentation of this. This creature.
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's a fair question.
That would be an argument, that would be an argument.
It is, and there have been numerous videos.
Or why hasn't one been hit by a car?
Yeah, Well, actually, they have been.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I believe it was a tractor trailer.
Injured? It was injured, or
injured, but hobbled off into the woods.
Wow. Okay.
And people, I call this show Bigfoot Crossing for two reasons. The most obvious reason is that. Perhaps my main reason, I should say, is a crossing is where people gather and they exchange information and they meet. And this gentleman called in and exchanged his opinion and told us that he thinks it's hogwash, and that's wonderful. I want believers and non-believers to feel comfortable calling in. But it's also because most Bigfoot sightings take place at night on a road. A car coming up and the Bigfoot crosses the road in front of it. So that's sort of the iconic image. Well, that and the Patterson-Gimlin film.
I've never seen a bobcat here in Middle Tennessee, but I know they are here.
Yeah. Well, and people, as to why we don't have more videos, there are videos out there. Sometimes they're not they're not. They don't show up well, or some of them, and there have been frankly hoaxes, and I'm the first to acknowledge that there are people who will hoax about Bigfoot, but there have been other videos and other films of Bigfoot, none as famous as the Patterson-Gimlin film, but some of the pictures that are taken are just sort of the folks on Finding Bigfoot call them blob squatches. And they just don't turn out right. Yeah, they're just like a big old blob there on the picture, so it doesn't turn out good. But I think as our technology improves, and there have been folks who've had their trail cameras tripped by Bigfoot, and I think that we hopefully will get more pictures and perhaps better, clearer, high resolution pictures. But folks will also ask the question, why in the world haven't we found a carcass?
Right.
And if you ask a park ranger, how many bear carcasses have you come across in your career? Not hit by a car, but
just
died a natural death out in the woods. And the answer for John Green, he talked to a guy who was a park ranger for 20-some years, 0.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the bones get spread, the scavengers attack the carcass, and the bones get spread, they get taken away, they get buried, they there's all sorts of reasons why we've not come across a carcass in the woods. And like you said, you've never seen a bobcat here in Tennessee. We don't see lots of animals that we know exist. We don't question their existence because we don't see them. We know they're out there. We just don't see them all the time.
That's right.
So it's a kind of a conundrum, but I do want to hear from everybody. Yays, nays, and in the middle.
Somebody needs to break the tie.
Yeah, we need it. We need a tiebreaker here. And so call in. Give us the number again, Daryl.
615-794-19. Don't you work with numbers in your...
I should remember that number.
615-794-1950. I know you remember numbers. You just don't remember that number.
I just don't remember that number.
You got a lot on your plate.
That's what it is. That's what it is. And so...
just remember the year 1950. Yeah, 794-1950. Yeah.
I'll remember that. No,
Okay.
I won't. No, I won't. But I'll try. Let me do one more article. This was in the Nashville Banner. And did I get the date? August 24th, 1967, I want to say. 68, 69, somewhere in there. And it's on the front page of the Nashville Banner, Hairy Tourist Plagues Police. And this is from Murfreesboro. Disgruntled Rutherford County officers are scurrying hither and yon in what promises to be their hairiest investigation in years. Police are inclined to scoff at the seriousness of the case, but some county residents are convinced the area has a new visitor who possesses none of the characteristics desirable in a neighbor. A monster has descended upon a usually quiet and peaceful area at Las Casas, a few miles east of here. The monster, be it Neanderthal man, escaped animal, space creature, abominable snowman, rock and roll artist, or even teenage prankster, is the most talked about event here since the invention of the automatic churn. The frantic search began Sunday night when at least 3 persons reported seeing the monster, described as a hairy 7-footer, in an area near Browns Mill Road. Other reports poured in Monday. Sheriff W.H. Bill Wilson, who dispatched patrol cars in a futile hunt for the intruder, said the descriptions would fit those of an ape. I don't think there's anything to it, the sheriff said. Let me flip the page here. People can get to looking for something and see whatever they want to. Well, they weren't drunk anyway, the sheriff said. So there you go. They were sober. Others, however, are certain that something strange is prowling the area. As in most such cases, those who've seen it believe it, and those who haven't don't, one witness declared. Roy Houston, now he was 13 in the late 1960s, saw the monster about 7 p.m. Sunday night with a relative, Terry Ring, as they drove along Browns Mill Road. We saw this thing walking from one side of the road to another, the youth told the Banner today. We drove down the road and turned around. We were sure scared. And when we came back, we passed about 3 yards from it. It jumped over a 5-foot fence and tore the fence down. Roy described the monster as being about 7 feet tall and 4.5 feet around the waist. It was covered with long, reddish brown hair and had teeth about 3 inches long, he added. I know what a bear looks like, the youth said, and it wasn't that. Roy said the monster had a pug nose like an ape. The boy said 2 other area residents, Terry Lester, 16, and Doris Barrett, about 21, saw the creature later in the night and shined a light in its face. Monday, he returned to the scene with some youthful friends. They didn't believe it, and I took them back. We found tracks on the road and in a ditch. The feet had 3 toes and a funny kind of a heel. Somebody else called Monday and said they saw it taking a bath in a mill pond at Hall's Hill, about 5 miles from the Sunday night incident, Sheriff Wilson said. We didn't check it out, though. So there's, the first sighting was by the Hudson youth, son of Mr. and Mrs. Earl Hudson, and Ring, employee of a Murfreesboro electrical firm. Barrett, who said the monster was bent over in some bushes when his automobile lights outlined it, reported he flew home and called the sheriff. So we've got some folks here that were certainly young enough to have a good recollection of it. They were 16, somewhere between 16 and 21, or maybe 13, I think, was the youngest. Deputy L.D. Knight joined in the search. Deputy Clarence Sanders was sent to the scene. The sheriff is Bill Wilson at the time. So if you know any of these people, let me run over those names again. We have Roy Hudson, who was 13, Terry Ring, Terry Lester, Doris Barrett, Deputy Clarence Sanders, Deputy L.D. McKnight, and Sheriff W.H. Wilson, Bill Wilson. So there's just a few of the sightings that have been reported in the Tennessee area, and in the Middle Tennessee area, I should say. So if you know of any of these people or know how I can reach them, I'd love to talk with them. We wouldn't have to do it over the radio. We could do it over the phone, or I could meet them somewhere. But I would love to have the opportunity to talk with them about their experiences. Again, my cell number is 615-516-7173, and the phone number here is 615-794-1950.
You got it.
I got it. All right.
Woohoo! The crowd goes wild.
So we have in our little informal poll, we have 1 for, 1 against. And so we need a tiebreaker. So call us in, 615-794-1950, and we will try to break this tie.
How's the Bigfoot industry these days, Michael? Is there still a TV show about Bigfoot on the air?
Well, there is. I haven't seen it in a while. I don't know if it's on its summer hiatus or not. But it's on. It airs Thursday nights. So it used to air on Sunday nights, and that was perfect. They moved it to Thursdays, and I can't remember to look for it. But finding Bigfoot
even the
still
Bigfoot
on.
Show is elusive.
Yes, that's right. We're having troubles finding. That's right, because we watch SmackDown on Thursday nights, WWE wrestling.
That's almost Bigfoot.
So that's almost big. Some of those guys are big enough to be Bigfoot.
Yeah.
But Andre the Giant played Bigfoot
Wow.
on the $6 Million Man.
Oh well, he could do it.
He could do it. That's right. That's right.
Wow.
So the TV show is elusive, and there are other programs about it. My nephew Eric, who is my Facebook webmaster, and is going to start doing some research for me because I just don't have time.
You've had to hire another researcher.
Wow. No, he's doing this for free. He's doing it for the glory.
What's that? What's the term you lawyers use? It's what is it?
An intern.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. But
I was thinking of free work.
Free work, yeah, but pro bono.
Yeah, that was there.
Yes,
there it is.
That's Yeah, he's doing it pro bono, and I appreciate Eric doing all of this. But starting next week, we're going to have we're going to have like a regular segment here on Bigfoot Crossing called Bigfoot in the News.
Ooh,
and
okay.
so Eric is going to be researching and finding Bigfoot news stories that from all around the world, really, not just here in Tennessee, but.
Of course, you've introduced us to a lot of Bigfoot authors and Bigfoot books, and so we try to keep track of that on the show here. And you've even done some author interviews. So
yep, and looking forward to doing more. I would love to get Jeff Meldrum, who is a anthropology professor. That's a hard to get out. Anthropology professor, focusing on locomotion, on how things move and walk. Out at Idaho State University, he's written a book on Bigfoot and was pivotal in it was a great Bigfoot documentary called Sasquatch the Legend Meets Science. And it's just an absolutely great documentary, and he was involved in that. I'm hoping to get him on the show to interview him. And, you mentioned earlier the Bigfoot Museum. I interviewed Michael Rugg out at the Bigfoot Discovery Museum in Fenton, California. Well, there is a Bigfoot Museum in Willow Creek. Willow Creek is in Northern California, just south of where Roger Patterson filmed Bigfoot in the Bluff Creek area. And so I've reached out to them. Would like to do an interview with them, and so I'm hoping that'll be coming up in the next couple of weeks. And so we've got a lot of things going on. We're closing in on getting a sponsor, another sponsor for the show, and so we've got lots of things that I'm working on, and want to keep the show fresh and keep folks interested. Assuming I'm keeping them interested now.
Yes, it's always interesting, Michael. No doubt about it. I mean, the folks from Channel 4, they'd packed up their equipment, and then when they got a whiff of you and your topic, they unpacked it and they started filming some more.
Well, I appreciate that. That was very nice of them to do that, and
so you got their attention anyway.
Yeah, that's a well. I hope in a good way. I guess we'll wait and see how it looks. When is that going to air? Anyhow, is that tonight?
Maybe they'll let us know that they didn't give us a specific date.
Okay.
So, but if we find out, we'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know. I would like to know about that. And I've got one more sighting. One more news report that I can talk about here briefly. Bigfoot sighting reported in Wilson County, and this is from the Mount Juliet News, October 19th, 2011. And the article is written by Larry Woody. And Larry, of course, was a longtime sports writer for the Tennessean.
He's been in here before. He's been in our studio.
Has he really?
He's a funny guy and very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a great writer, great columnist.
Did he talk about Bigfoot?
No, I didn't. I know, but I remember he used to be one of my favorite sports writers when he was in the Tennessean.
Yes, I loved reading his column in the Tennessean. I did too.
One of my favorites was when he tried to return a serve from Roscoe Tanner. At the time, he had the fastest serve in tennis, and Larry just wrote a funny article.
Oh wow. That would have been funny.
So he wrote about
He wrote about Bigfoot in the Mount Juliet News, October 19th, 2011. A recent story about cougar sightings in Middle Tennessee prompted a message from Lebanon attorney David Lawrence about an investigation into a reported Bigfoot sighting in Wilson County. Two 12-year-olds, a boy and a girl, insisted they saw one of the legendary creatures on a logging road in a rural section of the county on July 16, 2010. The National Bigfoot Field Research Organization investigated the report, interviewed the witnesses, and deemed them credible. Most wildlife professionals do not believe Bigfoot exists. They say what is being sighted around the country are bears or other large animals. The Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency takes that position, claiming that if such a species existed, the remains of one would have been discovered by now, or would have been detected on a trail camera used by hunters to photograph wildlife. They have been detected on trail cameras. People ignore the photographs. However, if there is such a creature in the wild, it is protected by law. Although there is no concrete evidence to prove the existence of Bigfoot, such as a body or an indisputable photograph. See? An indisputable photograph.
Yeah, okay. The key word.
The key word there. There are trail cameras that have been tripped by Bigfoot, and people dispute the photograph. So anyhow, I'm getting off my soapbox here.
This is a serious article Larry wrote, though.
I
mean, I thought I thought he was going to maybe poke fun or something.
No, he stayed pretty straight with this. Yeah. There have been numerous reported sightings by credible witnesses, such as the one last year in Wilson County. According to the BFRO report, the two youngsters went for a walk on a logging road, while the father of one was bush hogging a nearby field. The girl was walking ahead of the boy, and as she came around a turn in the road, she saw a creature approximately 8 feet tall, standing erect on two legs with an arm around a tree. The animal was leaning out and away from the tree as though trying to look at her. It was approximately 20 yards away, close enough for the girl to give this detailed description. It was covered in hair, not fur, that was black and glossy with hints of dark brown. It was completely covered in hair except for portions of its face. The skin of the face was lighter in color than the hair. The eyes were very large, dark, and wide set. The nose was normal size for the face. The arms were muscular, as were the shoulders, so much so that it appeared the creature was shrugging its shoulders. The chest was flat and muscular. There was an oddity about the lower jaw on the right side of the face. The jaw appeared to be dropped on that side, as in an expression of surprise, or perhaps in the act of chewing. The teeth were visible on that side of the face. This girl gives a very detailed description here. The encounter lasted approximately 20 seconds before the girl turned and quickly walked back to her friend. She told him what she had seen, and they started to return to the field where the boy's father was working. They glanced back, and the creature had followed the girl and was standing in the road 10 yards away next to a cedar tree. The boy described the creature exactly as the girl did. They quickly hurried away. The boy's father told the boy's father what they had seen, and he returned with them back to the spot. The creature was not seen again. According to the BFRO, the description of the animal fit that of other sightings around the country over the years. So there's a very recent sighting that the BFRO found credible. I have talked with David Lawrence, who's the attorney from Lebanon, and was unable to get the contact information for the folks who actually saw it, but I would love to talk to them. If any of you are listening and you know the folks out in Wilson County who reported this Bigfoot sighting in 2011, it was actually in the paper in 2011, I believe it was a 2010 sighting, give me a call, 615-516-7173. And we do have a lot of exciting things coming up for the coming weeks. Now, July 4th. That's a Monday.
Yes. Could
we air on Tuesday instead of Monday?
I believe we can arrange that, Michael.
All right.
Yes.
Right. See that's folks. That's why it always pays to deal with the grand poobah. When you're dealing with the high muckety mucks, you need the grand poobah of the high muckety mucks. What Daryl says, people make happen.
You go to the head of the stream.
Go to the top of the front of the line. That's right. The head man.
Yes, we don't want to miss our Bigfoot intersection, Bigfoot Crossing show.
That's right.
We'll have it on Tuesday, July 5th.
Tuesday, July 5th instead of Monday, July 4th. Same time.
So that'll be 2 weeks?
Same
is that right?
station. That is. It's 2 weeks away.
2 weeks, okay.
Yeah,
All
isn't
right.
that amazing? June is
the
almost
year is
gone.
flying by.
Yeah. Pretty soon you'll be wondering what to get me for Christmas.
That's right. I'm going to get you a Bigfoot T-shirt or a Bigfoot book. Maybe that's what I should put on my list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I think we are just about out of time, folks. I appreciate you so much being here with us today on Bigfoot Crossing. Join us back here next week, 1:06 p.m. for more at Bigfoot Crossing. Thank you so much.
We hope you have enjoyed your visit with us here at Bigfoot Crossing. The internet home for Bigfoot Crossing can be found at www.bigfootcrossing.net. Michael Willey's website, Bigfoot in Tennessee, can be found at www.tnbigfoot.net. Please follow us on Facebook at Bigfoot Tennessee. You can also follow Michael Willey on Twitter. His handle is at Michael B. Willey. Each episode of Bigfoot Crossing is posted to the Bigfoot Crossing YouTube channel. Please subscribe so you can be notified when new episodes are posted. Your feedback is always welcome. Please email questions and comments to tnsasquatch@gmail.com. Be sure to let us know which episode you have a question or comment about. Thanks for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next time right here at Bigfoot Crossing.